Why is it that so many genuinely kind people find themselves stuck in the friend zone, watching as others with seemingly less consideration get all the attention? You've probably been there. The thoughtful texts that go unanswered, the carefully planned dates that lead nowhere, the painful realization that despite giving everything, you're still not the one they choose. It makes no sense, right? We're taught from childhood that kindness is a virtue, that being nice is how you win people over. So why does it sometimes feel like your niceness is actually pushing people away? Pause for a moment. Think about the last time your kindness wasn't reciprocated. How did that feel? Here's what most people don't understand. There's a profound difference between authentic kindness and what I call tactical niceness. One builds genuine connection, the other quietly sabotages it. Today, we're going to explore why being too nice actually makes you less attractive, not more. And more importantly, how to transform this pattern into something that draws people towards you instead of away. The truth might be uncomfortable, but it's going to set you free. Let's be honest with ourselves. When you're constantly agreeable, always available, and perpetually accommodating, what's really driving that behavior? For many of us, the answer is fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of not being enough just as you are. You were praised when you kept others happy, but that praise became a prison. You learned that your worth was tied to how much you could give, how much you could sacrifice, and somewhere along the way, you forgot something essential. Relationships aren't about transaction, they're about connection. Think about it. When you're constantly bending over backward to please someone, you're not actually connecting with them, you're performing. You're trying to earn their affection rather than discover if there's a genuine match. And here's what most people miss. Human psychology is wired to value what we work for, not what comes too easily. When you make yourself endlessly available, when you agree to everything, when you never express a contradicting opinion, you're sending a powerful subconscious message. I don't value myself enough to have boundaries. And if you don't value yourself, why should anyone else? There's a fascinating paradox at play in human attraction. We're not drawn to those who simply agree with everything we say. We're drawn to those who challenge us, those who have their own center of gravity. Think of the most captivating people you know. Are they the ones who are desperately trying to be liked, or are they the ones who seem comfortable in their own skin, with their own opinions and boundaries? The difference is magnetic. When you're too accommodating, too available, too agreeable, you become predictable. And predictability, while comfortable, rarely creates the emotional tension that sparks attraction. I'm not suggesting you become disagreeable or difficult. That's just another form of manipulation. What I'm suggesting is authenticity, having the courage to be real, even when it's uncomfortable. Consider this. When was the last time you respectfully disagreed with someone you were attracted to? When did you last say no to a request that didn't work for you? When did you last express a genuine opinion that might not have been popular? If you're struggling to remember, that might be your answer. Let me share something that might sound contradictory at first. Being too nice isn't actually nice at all. When you're constantly suppressing your own needs, swallowing your true feelings, and prioritizing others at your own expense, resentment builds. It's slowly, quietly, but inevitably. And resentment is relationship poison. Eventually, all those unspoken needs and buried feelings find a way out. Maybe as passive aggression, maybe as a sudden explosion of emotion, maybe as a slow withdrawal of genuine connection. Here's what authentic kindness looks like. It comes from a place of strength, not fear. It's a choice, not a strategy. It's generous without expecting return, but it's balanced with healthy self-respect. Real kindness says, I care about you and I care about myself. Tactical niceness says, I'll sacrifice myself if it means you might love me. Can you feel the difference? Let's talk about respect, both self-respect and the respect others have for you. When you consistently prioritize others' needs above your own, you're teaching them how to treat you. You're establishing a pattern where your time, your feelings, your boundaries don't matter as much. And here's the difficult truth. People rarely value what you give away for free. I worked with a client named Michael, who was the epitome of nice. He would rearrange his entire schedule when someone he was interested in wanted to meet. He would remember every detail they mentioned and go out of his way to accommodate their preference. He would never disagree or express a contradicting view. And time after time, he found himself wondering why these connections fizzled out. The turning point came when he realized that in trying so hard to be liked, he had become invisible. Not as a person, but as a complete human being with needs, preferences, and boundaries of his own. When Michael started honoring himself as much as he honored others, something remarkable happened. The quality of his connections transformed. People became more invested, more curious, more attentive. By valuing himself, he became more valuable in their eyes. So if being too nice is sabotaging your attractiveness, what's the alternative? It's not about becoming unkind. It's about becoming authentic. It's about developing what I call integrated kindness, compassion that includes yourself in the equation. Here's what this looks like in practice. Express your genuine thoughts, even when they differ from the other person. Thoughtful disagreement creates intellectual tension, which is far more interesting than bland agreement. Value your time and energy. Don't always be instantly available, not as a game, but as a reflection of having a full, rich life of your own. Set clear boundaries about what works for you and what doesn't. When you communicate these with calm confidence, it signals self-respect. Be generous because you want to be, not because you're hoping to get something in return. True generosity comes without strings attached. Develop comfort with silence and space in relationships. The need to constantly fill the void often comes from anxiety, not connection. Remember, there's a world of difference between being kind and being a doormat. Kind people have strong boundaries. Kind people can say no. Kind people value themselves and others. The path from people-pleasing to authentic connection requires courage. It means facing the discomfort of possibly being disliked for who you really are, rather than being liked for who you're pretending to be. That's terrifying at first. I understand. But here's what happens on the other side of that fear. You start attracting people who are drawn to the real you. Not your performance of niceness, not your carefully crafted agreeability, but you, with all your complexities, opinions, and boundaries. And those connections, they're the ones worth having. When you show up authentically, you give others permission to do the same. That's where true intimacy begins. Not in perfect behavior, but in perfect honesty. Think about the relationships in your life where you can truly be yourself. Aren't those the most meaningful ones? The ones where you don't have to walk on eggshells or constantly monitor your words. That's what becomes possible when you step out of the too nice trap. So how do you begin this transformation? How do you shift from tactical niceness to authentic kindness? Start small. Choose one area where you've been overextending yourself and set a gentle boundary. Maybe it's declining a request that doesn't feel right. Maybe it's expressing a genuine opinion when you'd normally stay quiet. Notice the discomfort that arises. Breathe through it. Remind yourself that your worth isn't tied to constant accommodation. Then observe what happens. Often, the respect you show yourself inspires respect from others, not always immediately, and not from everyone, but from the people who matter. As you practice this new way of being, something remarkable happens. You begin to feel more centered, more confident, more at peace. You're no longer contorting yourself to fit what you think others want. And paradoxically, that authenticity becomes magnetic. Not to everyone, but to the right one. Remember, attractiveness isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about having the courage to show up as yourself, needs and boundaries included. There's an irony in all of this that I want you to really hear. When you stop trying so hard to be liked, you become more likable. When you release the need for everyone's approval, you become more approved of. When you honor yourself as much as you honor others, you become more attractive. Not because you're playing games or following some strategy, but because authenticity resonates at a soul level that tactical niceness never can. So I invite you to step out of the prison of being too nice, not to become unkind, but to become real, to discover what it means to be genuinely kind to others and to yourself. The right people will be drawn to that authenticity, and the connections you form will be based on who you truly are, not who you think you should be. That kind of attraction, it's sustainable, it's nourishing, and it's worth far more than the fleeting attention that comes from contorting yourself into someone else's ideal. You deserve connections that value the real you, and the world deserves to meet the authentic person behind the nice facade. Are you ready to be seen?